It's time for Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson, and I'm your host, Tony Graham. Good afternoon, Matthew.
Good afternoon, Tony. I've been sitting here waiting all day after our session this morning. I could hardly wait to talk more technology with you.
I wouldn't be biting your fingernails.
I'll do my best.
You might have, yes. Now, getting into the subject of coal, which is a very controversial subject, particularly in the light of what's happening with coal in China right at the moment. It seems like China is putting a bit of a ban on Australian imports, as been reported in the media. Now, the question is, how long will coal be used for electricity in Western Australia, that state that is talking about seceding from us at the moment?
That's right. It might be their own country before we know it, Tony, but at the moment they're still part of us, and they're talking about getting to the point only within 5 years where half of Western Australia's coal-fired electricity capacity will be phased out. And this is quite incredible. There's been a 20-year blueprint put together for basically the largest electricity system that they've got over there in WA. And so that goes through a whole range of components about certain coal-fired power stations, one's producing 520 megawatts and 890 megawatts, and a whole range of ones there, but starting to close some of those down. And what seems incredible about some of those is they're talking about shuttering some of these particular coal-fired power stations that aren't that old. One, for example, was only commissioned in 1999. And so by about the year 2022 to maybe 2024, it's basically being talked about shutting that down. So that's only a lifespan of maybe 23, 25 years, which is quite incredible when you think coal-fired power stations are normally looked at as 30, 40, 50 year sort of timeframes. But it gives you an idea of how quickly the world is moving to basically have more renewable energy, more ability for coal to be phased out and other sources to be brought in. So lots of things in this blueprint, quite fascinating. It's a pretty big blueprint, but they're talking about wind power as one of the main ones. Certainly solar is a big one as well. In particular, rooftop solar has been very popular in WA, and that's one of the things they're trying to manage as well, having that huge influx of power in the middle of the day from all these rooftop power systems and making sure they can still deliver reliable, controlled electricity when you've got these influxes of electricity that are higher at some point of the day. But certainly they're talking about renewable energy becoming so important to the system over there. And look, I think it's great to see some government in Australia at least looking at the future, the short, medium-term future, that 5-year plan, that 20-year plan, and realising that the rest of the world is moving away from coal, and we've got to do that as well. Despite the fact that we do export some coal, we've got to look at what we do here.
Yes, well, Matthew, I see a lot of talk over the years of politicians moving to renewables, but the problem, the sticking point has always been reliability and storage, and I don't see any plan in there for storage, and that's what they will need to be able to deliver on that plan. Having said that, storage is something that's been worked on, like the Snowy 2. Yeah. So it is seriously being done, but it all takes time and money, of course.
It takes time and money, but at least there's a plan. If you don't have a plan, then you're not going very far down that track.
Yes, but plan, realistic or not, that's the big question. Now, at 4 a.m. New South Wales time on Wednesday, October 14, Apple is having a big event to announce new so-called high-speed products. Now, what's that about, Matthew?
So this is the launch that you would normally see in September, but Apple have put it back because of COVID-19 to October. They made an announcement several months ago they would actually put back their traditional September launch event back by a few weeks. And so now we know it will be tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. I'm sure I'll be up there. Lots of people out there interested in what Apple has got to say will be up. I'm sure you'll be there, sitting there in front of your computer watching the live stream from the Apple event. But I can tell you a few rumours, Tony, and I've got 98% reliability in terms of what we'll see tomorrow morning. Apple will probably announce 4 new phones. They'll probably be called iPhone 12s. I can't be sure about that. But they'll have an iPhone 12 mini, a 5.4-inch screen. They'll have a couple of iPhone 12s that'll be 6.1-inch screen. One will be a standard, one a Pro. And then they'll have their largest ever screen, a Pro Max at 6.7-inch. The 2 standard phones will have 2 cameras, just a wide and an ultra-wide. The Pro phones will have a zoom like the iPhone 11 Pro has now, except it'll go from a 2x zoom up to a 4x zoom on the new 12 Pro, and on the Pro Max it might go as far as a 5x zoom. 5G will obviously be a big part of it. It's called high speed, the announcement, so speed will be a part of it. I assume that all will be 5G, maybe the Mini will only be 4G, and they'll have better processors, about 40% increase in speed on the processor, and the look of it will change ever so slightly. If we go back to the old iPhone 4, Tony, it had very square edges, whereas the new phones have all got rounded edges. It will go back to that square edge look, a little bit like the iPad Pro has got that square edge. They'll go back to that, everything new is old again, or everything old is new again. They'll have a better screen, more resistant to breakage. Wireless chargers will have some magnets to help the alignment. They'll introduce a couple of new colours. They'll have a blue, which they haven't had before in their standard range, and they'll have a navy blue in their Pro models, and that matches the navy blue watch. In fact, I've got the the iWatch in navy blue, the Series 6 on my wrist at the moment, and that's a new colour that was introduced in the iWatch range, and that'll be introduced in the Pro range as well. The one thing I can't get a definite answer on in all the rumour sites that I read, Tony, is the charging port. The European Commission made a ruling that said all new devices coming out need to have USB-C. Apple has traditionally had a Lightning port. Now, will they go along with the recommendations from the European Commission, which aren't in law yet, or will they say that we need to innovate, basically, which means we need to be different, and keep going ahead with the Lightning port? I don't know the answer to that one yet, but 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, only a bit over 12 hours away, I'll know that answer. Probably no charging brick in the box. They'll probably have earpods taken out. And so a few little minor changes there, but again, it's all about the different models and the headlines for those. It's a fairly safe upgrade from Apple. It'll go along those same lines. Nothing too radical there, just lots of incremental improvements.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with their own charging port, because they weren't very happy with that European ruling to start with, saying that it kills innovation. But anyway, so getting into the next subject, this is something that I'm sure you're interested in, Matthew, and that's, how do you feel about the prospect of a robotic colonoscopy?
Well, luckily enough, Tony, I've never had to experience a colonoscopy, but I've certainly talked to friends and relatives that have had a colonoscopy, and it sounds like an incredibly unpleasant experience. But the big question is, would you trust a robot to perform a colonoscopy? In theory, having a machine, a properly programmed machine, perform an incredibly delicate operation like a colonoscopy should be better. And the researchers at the University of Leeds in the UK have talked about the fact that you could even do this, if everything goes to plan, without being under general anaesthetic. And that's a big thing when you have a colonoscopy done, because a general anaesthetic knocks you out, at least for a day or two, but probably for sometimes weeks, because it's a pretty big impact on your system to be completely unconscious during that process. So if this could do it without that. It could do it much more accurately. It uses a magnetic endoscope along with some magnets on the outside of your body to help control it. It uses a camera, obviously. The only tests they've done so far have been on dummies. That's not people that are stupid. That's on actual dummies and on some pigs. They're at the point now where they're ready to start trialling this on humans, and I'm not sure that I'd want to be the first one to be in one of those trials, Tony. I'd rather wait for a little bit of time before a few people had it done before they actually started working on me. But this is the future of surgery. Robotics are used in surgery now, and this is the future in surgery, so that we can have more accurate surgery done, the precision levels can be higher, and also spread around the surgery so it can be done to more people, because actual surgery times are quicker, and the skill level doesn't need to be as high as the person doing it compared to, say, a surgeon.
Well, that's very good. So what you're really saying is that a colonoscopy doesn't need to be a bummer anymore. And on that note, that's it for Tech Talk today with Matthew Dickerson. Stay tuned next week, the same times, in the morning and in the afternoon. And you're listening to Binjang 91.5, and it's back to the great music information.